You're in a room with other people around you. Someone drops a comment that lands a little too precisely. Not loud, not dramatic, just sharp enough to turn a few heads. The air changes. You can feel the moment stretching, waiting for you to respond. Your mind moves fast. A defense forms, an explanation, something to push the tension back where it came from. This is usually where people react, not because they want to, but because the pull is strong. But some people don't move at all, not because they froze, and not because they didn't feel it. What separates them isn't personality. It's how they're seeing the situation in the first place. Most people misunderstand what calm actually is. They think it means holding everything in, swallowing the reaction, letting things slide while tension builds somewhere inside. That version of calm isn't strength. It's pressure with better posture, and it doesn't last. Real calm is different. It's not suppression, and it's not numbness. It's the ability to notice an emotional pull and decide not to step into it. You still feel what you feel. You just don't let someone else's urgency take control of your next move. When you see calm this way, not reacting stops looking like weakness. It starts looking like choice. You're not avoiding conflict. You're refusing to let your nervous system be hijacked by someone else's state. That shift is what changes everything. Because once you stop entering other people's emotional systems, their pressure loses its leverage. And the first trait that makes this possible is the one most people get completely wrong. Trait 1. They hear motive, not words. Most people focus on the sentence itself. Calm people listen for why the sentence is being used. Think of a meeting where someone cuts you off, not to clarify a point, but to reclaim the room. Or a family dinner where a comment sounds casual, yet lands with just enough edge to test you. Or a group chat where a message isn't really asking anything, it's nudging you to react, so the energy shifts away from them. On the surface, these moments look like disagreements, but when you slow them down, you can feel something else underneath. The words are carrying a request. Sometimes it's for reassurance. Sometimes it's for dominance. Sometimes it's just for relief from their own discomfort. The content matters less than the effect it's trying to create inside you. This is where calm people separate themselves. They don't ask, was that fair? They ask, what does this need from me right now? And once they hear the motive, the urgency fades. The pressure softens. The moment stops feeling like an emergency. That's why they don't rush to respond. Not because they don't care, but because they recognize that reacting would be meeting someone else's emotional need at their own expense. The impulse to react belongs to the other person. Carrying it is optional. When you can hear the motive instead of the wording, the emotional charge loses its grip. The situation becomes clearer, and your reaction loses its force. But seeing this alone still isn't enough to stay steady. Trait 2, their self-worth doesn't move with the room. Most people don't realize how often their sense of worth is being updated in real time. A look across the table, a tone shift in someone's voice, the way a message is read or not read. Their nervous system checks the room and adjusts again and again, trying to stay acceptable. Calm people don't do that. Not because they're arrogant and not because they don't care. There's just something in them that isn't waiting for permission to stay steady. Their value doesn't rise when the room approves, and it doesn't collapse when the room turns cold. This matters more than it sounds, because when your worth lives outside you, every interaction becomes risky. Any comment can shake you. Any pause can feel like rejection. You end up managing other people's moods just to protect your footing. People who grew up in critical or unpredictable environments know this pattern well. You learn early to read faces, adjust tone, stay ahead of judgment. It keeps you safe for a while. But it also teaches your body that stability is conditional. Calm people have unlearned that rule. They've built a quiet anchor inside themselves. Not a mantra, not confidence talk, just a settled sense of who they are that doesn't need to be negotiated in every room. And when that anchor is there, provocation loses another layer of power because there's nothing outside to defend anymore. That's the takeaway here. If your worth isn't outside, it can't be taken. But there's still a reflex that trips most people up almost instantly. Trait 3, they don't rush, and it's not about politeness. When something provocative happens, most people feel an immediate pull to respond. A message comes in with a sharp edge, and your fingers want to move before you've even finished reading. Someone looks at you a certain way, and your body tightens, already preparing a reply. A question is dropped suddenly, and you feel the pressure to fill the silence. Calm people notice that pull, and they don't obey it. The pause they take isn't a communication trick. It isn't about being polite or appearing composed. It's a different internal tempo. While others are reacting at the speed of discomfort, they slow the moment down just enough to regain control of it. That single beat changes everything. The energy in the room shifts. The urgency loses momentum. What felt like something that needed an answer right now starts to look optional. This is why rushing is so costly. The faster you respond, the more control you hand over. You're letting someone else set the pace, the tone, and the direction. Calm people refuse that trade. They let the silence exist. They let the message sit. They let the question hang, not as a power move, but as a way of staying with themselves instead of being pulled outward. Here's the quiet rule underneath it all. Speed gives control away. Pause takes it back. And this is exactly where most people misunderstand what an attack actually is. Trait 4. They don't carry emotions that aren't theirs. A lot of people assume that if an emotion reaches them, they have to deal with it. Someone's anger shows up, and suddenly it feels like your job to calm it down. Someone's disappointment lands on you, and you start explaining yourself. Someone is tense, frustrated, overwhelmed, and without noticing, you pick it up and carry it for them. Calm people don't do that. They've learned a simple but uncomfortable truth. Not every emotion aimed in your direction belongs to you. Some feelings are expressions, not assignments. They come from someone else's inner chaos, and they don't require a response, a fix, or a defense. This matters deeply if you grew up being blamed for other people's moods. If you learned early that peace depended on you staying agreeable, apologetic, or emotionally available. That training runs quietly in the background, telling you to absorb tension so the room can relax. Calm people have interrupted that pattern. When emotion hits them, they pause and ask, "Is this mine to hold?" And if the answer is no, they let it pass through without making it personal. No argument, no explanation, no internalizing. That's where the release comes from. The moment you stop absorbing what isn't yours, your system relaxes. You're no longer carrying weight that was never meant for you. Here's the takeaway. Not absorbing it is freedom. But there's one last trap that the ego loves to spring. Trait 5. They choose power over being right. Most people underestimate how expensive it is to be right. Not in theory, but in real life. You might win the argument, land the perfect line, or finally prove your point, and then you pay for it. Your mood is gone. The connection is strained. The rest of your day carries a residue that no one talks about. Calm people have learned to see that cost clearly. They don't moralize it. They don't tell themselves they're above it. They just do the math. What will this actually take from me if I engage? And what do I gain beyond a brief sense of satisfaction? This is where an identity shift happens. Someone who needs to react is usually trying to protect something fragile. Their image, their pride, their sense of control. Someone who is grounded doesn't need that defense. They can let a wrong assumption sit. They can leave a comment unanswered. They can walk away without proving anything. That doesn't make them passive. It makes them selective. Power for them isn't about dominating the moment. It's about preserving their internal state. They know that once your state is disturbed, every decision after that gets worse. So they protect it first, before they worry about outcomes. That's the core of this trait. Control your state before you try to control the moment. And when these 5 traits come together, something bigger starts to happen. When you put these traits together, you don't get a set of techniques. You get a different way of moving through the world. This isn't about becoming untouchable or emotionally armored. Calm people still feel things. They still get irritated, disappointed, caught off guard. The difference is that they're no longer organized around reaction. Their attention stays inside longer than it used to. Because of that, something subtle starts to happen around them. The environment adjusts. People who rely on pressure, urgency, or emotional pull begin to lose interest. There's nothing to grab onto. At the same time, interactions with grounded people become easier, quieter, more respectful, not because anyone is trying harder, but because the signal has changed. This isn't a switch you flip. It's a process, a series of small moments where you choose not to give your nervous system away. Over time, those choices stack. Your responses slow. your reactions soften. Your sense of center becomes more stable, and without trying to control anyone else, your world quietly reorganizes itself. Because the most important change here isn't external, it happens somewhere else entirely. Provocation doesn't disappear. People will still test, poke, and project. The difference is that it no longer has leverage over you. When you stop reacting automatically, those moments lose their grip, not because you became colder or tougher, but because you stopped lending them your energy. You're no longer being pulled into someone else's urgency, someone else's instability, someone else's need for resolution. That's real power, not control over other people, but control over your own state, the kind that lets you stay present, clear, and intact, no matter what's happening around you. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Think about the last time someone tried to provoke you. What would have changed if you hadn't moved at all? And next time, we'll look at how these patterns form in the first place, and why certain people feel almost compelled to pull others into reaction. You don't rise above people by reacting. You rise above by no longer being pulled.